welcome to this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe television, live from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. I am Bable Jonathan. In our top stories, this news are alleged kidnappers of Dr. Joki Disongo Olivia have been arrested. They are in pre-trial detention, and this edition of the news we're going to show you how it happened, how she was abducted, and of course we'll talk about the situation as far as America's decision to protect Cameroonians from dangerous deportation is concerned. We're going to bring to you analysis and explanations of that decision taken by the U.S. Homeland Security Department. Stay with us. We begin in the chief town of the northwest region of the Republic of Cameroon, one of the two English-speaking regions in a socio-political and security tension for close to 6 years today, and the country continues counting deaths in the two English-speaking regions, the northwest and the southwest regions of the Republic of Cameroon, as the situation remains unstable in several parts of those crisis-stricken regions. In the northwest regional chief town, Bamenda, precisely in the back travelers neighborhood, 2 persons died in a shootout between soldiers and armed civilians over the weekend. The 2 persons were caught up in the crossfire at back travelers neighborhood, and we're told that the military called intelligence that some separatists, or better still armed civilians, were visiting an area, a beer parlor in that part of the town of Bamenda, and so they decided to storm the place and met with the armed civilians, and they got into a shootout. And in the course of the gun battle, 2 persons, 2 civilians died. We'll be bringing to you more updates as far as this is concerned. As I told you, the headlines: the alleged kidnappers of Dr. Disongo Joki Olivia here in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala, have been arrested, and they are now in pre-trial detention. And in this newscast, we're going to show you how she was kidnapped, and we'll be showing you that in this edition of the 6 p.m. newscast. But before that, we're going to talk about the decision of the United States Homeland Security Department to protect Cameroonians from dangerous deportation, and we talk to some persons who have mastery of these issues, notably one of the officials of human rights watch in the United States of America, and another official, another legal mind, Barrister Neneba Innocent, who is in New York. They talk to the inside, and these are the analysis and explanations that brought to that decision by the U.S. Homeland Security Department to protect Cameroonians from dangerous deportation.
Cameroon becomes the 14th country to be designated by the U.S. Department for Temporary Protected Status. This comes after pressure from Human Rights Watch, the Cameroon Advocacy Network, and the Black-led Immigrant Rights Group. Speaking on the program The Insight, Laurent Seibert, researcher, refugee and migrant rights division at Human Rights Watch, throws more light on why they have been pushing for the designation.
Cameroonians that were deported have suffered really unimaginable abuse, and just horrific physical abuse, as well as arbitrary detention and other kinds of really serious human rights violations. And so we were just fighting so hard to prevent that from happening again. To Barrister Neneba Innocent Akufo, Cameroonian-born attorney and counsel of law in New York, the decision is a slap on the face of the Republic of Cameroon as far as respecting human rights is concerned.
DHS has designated Cameroon as a country that abuses human rights. They don't respect the basic freedoms of people, and that's why their citizens are fleeing. This is an acknowledgement by the United States government that there is something wrong in Cameroon, because Their ministers, the government officials, they go around peddling the fact that there is nothing in Cameroon. It is not true. There are other countries in Africa where they have political tension and rivalries between their parties, but their countries have not been designated, for TPS.
Barrister Neneba further explains those who are going to benefit from this decision.
Residing in the United States, as of April 14th, that is true. You cannot be sent back home. But if you landed in the United States today, then you're out of luck because you were not here on April 14th. It's not a pathway for you to have a green card. You cannot have a green card based on their TPS. It's just temporary, so you cannot be deported back where you might face torture or persecution from where you're coming from.
Several Cameroonians who have been living in fear of imminent deportation express a sigh of relief. The TPS designation will last for 18 months.
Lauren Seibert and Barrister Neneba Innocent Akufo spoke to the Insight, analyzing and bringing explanations to the U.S. Homeland Security Department to protect Cameroonians from dangerous deportation. Now to Tuba in the Nizam Division, northwest region of the Republic of Cameroon. The inhabitants of that part of the country are expressing concerns and worries over inadequate social amenities available within the community and other problems, making life quite difficult, a situation which is further compounded by the worsening socio-political and security tensions hitting the northwest and southwest regions of the Republic of Cameroon and adversely affecting developmental efforts. However, the Council of Tuba is doing everything possible, according to the authorities, to enhance the provision of social amenities for the people. Bostella reports from Bameda.
In 2021, a sinkhole in the middle of the road, about 1 kilometer from the main entrance into the campus of the University of Bamenda, paralyzed movement until some temporary works were done. The issue of potable water and electricity have been the major cry of the population of Bambile in the Tuba municipality. During their council session, councillors resolved to resume the collection of 250 francs per taxi per day, though the law says 250 francs per trip.
The taxi number are registered in Bamenda City and they apply to So the law says that taxis that are applying another subdivision that are not from there have to pay 250 francs per trip. But when we had meeting with the SDO, we resolved that it should be 250 francs per day. Once you pay and get a receipt, you should not pay to 100 to a person and say you're passing.
Drivers plying the Bamenda-Bambili stretch say it is not the first time they are paying this fare to the councils, but would only do so again if the funds realized will be used to make available basic social amenities.
Formerly, when they were collecting the 250 francs, we have never seen something profitable that they have done with it. For potable water, it is a nightmare here in Bambili, as I can tell you. Students, they go up and down in search of water. So the government or the council, if the 250 francs goes a long way to rehabilitate the taps, then it will be better.
During the session, Tuba's Mayor Martin Tanjong equally fronted at councillors who have been attending sessions on proxy.
Councillors amend themselves to be councillors of proxy or coming on session. Who is going to take the problem of their constituency to the council and the results from the council back to the constituency? If the council must continue to succeed, they must be part of the pillars that will contribute to this success.
The student population of Tuba in particular expect their taps to flow. With the outbreak of the cholera epidemic in some regions of Cameroon, their fears are high as many have turned to doubtful water sources.
Opposition politicians and political analysts decry and condemn the influence peddling by the administration, the territorial administration on the functioning of traditional institutions across the Republic, notably the fact that some traditional rulers are imposed on the people by the administration, notably through the Minister of Territorial Administration at Tanganji Paul. And speaking on the program Decentralized Debate on Equinoxe television, a politician of the CRM political party and a political analyst said that this action of the Ministry of Territorial Administration is not correct and could be anti-productive, while a panelist from the ruling Cameroon People's Democratic Movement, CPD, and political party praised such actions by the Minister of Territorial Administration. Take a listen to this report compiled by Innocent.
On March 15, 2022, the Minister of Territorial Administration, in a communique, instructed the Senior Divisional Officer for the Upper Plateau Division West Region to install, against the wish of the people of Bangu Village, Tiyu Tayu Anor as their traditional leader. Minister Paul Atanganji added that any order from whosoever wrestling his decision is tantamount to creating public disorder. On March 21st, the Bangu natives protested the installation, with the Prime Minister in a communique signed by his Secretary General ordering suspension of the installation for proper investigation first by an inquiry commission. According to the Prime Minister's release, the action of Minister Paul Atanganji was inflammable. This Prime Minister's statement has been supported by an opposition politician.
Quand un ministre a en face de lui un dossier,
Barrister Desiree Sikati of the CRM party blames the Minister of Territorial Administration for not meeting his boss, the Prime Minister, to discuss the subject matter. He took a decision that surprised the Prime Minister. He thinks today in Cameroon, traditional leaders are being erected as strong political pillars supporting firm the Biya regime.
on peut les mettre dans un cercle fermé où ils seront moulés psychologiquement selon le bon vouloir des pouvoirs publics.
A political analyst, Aristide Mono, holds Minister Paul Atanganji rather responsible for causing public disorder and not the Prime Minister.
Le Premier ministre serait en situation de rébellion et non M. Paul Atanganji.
He questions on what criteria the President of the Republic appointed Paul Atanganji as Minister of Territorial Administration.
Si on était dans un pays sérieux, le président de la République serait aujourd'hui sur le banc des accusés.
He thinks he was only appointed with regards to the crisis in the north and southwest regions and to play some repressive roles in favor of the regime. That Minister Paul Atanganji is only activated by the regime to attain objectives.
Parce que M. Paul Atanganji est activé, il faut qu'on le dise à un moment donné. Il est activé, sinon il serait dans une situation de déchéance ou de désaveu.
Barrister Joseph Claude Biliga of the CPDM defends Minister Paul Atanganji, saying,
Le monsieur Atanganji,
he is not from Bangu and knows nothing about the Bangu tradition. He only receives technical information from his collaborators before taking a decision, which is normal.
et d'une manière générale, je le dis sur le contrôle de mon confrère.
Comment le Premier ministre aussi le saurait, puisque lui-même n'est pas Bangu?
Aristide Mono and Barrister Sikati believe,
c'est-à-dire que ceux-là qui sont dans des prétentions.
Minat Boss is not stupid, but fulfilling a well-calculated plan of the regime with special backup.
C'est son image qui prend toujours un...
They refer to him as the bullet absorber and one who has been assigned to do the bad job for the ruling regime.
The Archbishop or the Bishop of Boye Diocese of the Roman Catholic Church in the southwest region of Cameroon has reminded the Christians of the St. Michael the Archangel mission station in Boya that the resurrection of Christ brings hope in troubled times. He was speaking to the Christians on Easter Sunday. Derek Jato has more.
Bishop Michael Bibi of the Diocese of Boya is at St. Michael the Archangel Mission Station in Bitingi at Easter. The man of God has paid an Easter pastoral visit at the time. This Francophone community in this mission station is praying for one thing: a full Francophone parish.
I was telling them today, if they are ready, I am ready, which means that they fulfill the conditions that need to be fulfilled. It will be easy to give them a sociological parish.
And also present was Governor Benato Kalia-Bilai, the honorary president of the mission station, who reassured the Bishop of the Diocese of Boya of the commitment of all for the realization of this church project.
Now that we have the roof, we'll continue with the doors and windows, with the soil, with the painting. But it was important for us today to welcome the bishop so that he can see how far we have gone with this project.
In his homily, Bishop Michael Bibi reminded the Christians that the resurrection of Jesus Christ at Easter brings hope and faith.
Through the resurrection, we are assured that Christ is in heaven, and that those of us who live here on earth, will live and do his will, we are all assured of sharing eternally with him in his kingdom.
St. Michael the Archangel is a mission station under St. Anthony of Padua Parish, Boya Town.
Reporting in Cameroon's political capital, Yaoundé, the Archbishop of the Yaoundé Metropolitan Archdiocese of the Roman Catholic Church, His Lordship or His Grace, Jean Barga, said that Christians must not allow evil and all the ills that we are seeing in the society today to continue. They must take the lead in fighting such ills. And he was speaking on the sidelines of the celebration of Easter Sunday in the nation's capital, Yaoundé. Take a listen to Bishop Jean Barga.
We are celebrating this resurrection of Christ this year in our country. I think it is a good opportunity for us to welcome this message of renewed world. That means to accept the passage from the death to life. Concretely, that means as Christians we are involved to change the situation. We cannot accept that the evil continue, hatred continue, violence continue, injustice continue. We want to improve the society. That's why I think that the grace coming from the resurrection is very, very good for us, because it can strengthen us to improve in the family, in the nation, in our society, in professional services. We can improve the destiny of our citizens and our nation.
Earlier, I talked about the doctor who was kidnapped here in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala, Dr. Disongo Jockey Olivia, and those who are alleged to have kidnapped her have been arrested. They were presented to the press today, and they are now on pre-trial detention. And we went back to the scene to see exactly how the kidnapping took place. And of course, it was revealed that Dr. Disongo Jockey Olivia was never taken out of the town of Douala. She was rather kept in a private home here in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala, where the alleged kidnappers took her phones and managed to move over to Ede and the Sanaga Maritime Division in a bid to blur the tracks that the security forces could follow in order to rescue Dr. Disongo Jockey Olivia, and now they are under pre-trial detention. And of course, we're going to be bringing to you greater details with Smanjit and Gabriel. Right, we'll be coming to that report in subsequent news editions. Now, news out of the Republic of Cameroon. The citizens of Chad, notably politicians and civil society leaders, are expressing concerns over the delay in the transition process in the country after the death of President Idriss Déby Itno. The transition has not been effective, and the transitional authorities are still in power. Meanwhile, in KwaZulu-Natal province in South Africa, at least 400 people have died following heavy floods in that country, and about 500 more or that is 50 people, are now declared missing after the torrential rains that hit that part of the country. Glory Malasmo.
Since the death of Marshal Idris Deby Itno in April 2021, a transitional military council seized power until date, the population still wait for an inclusive national dialogue to determine the fate of the nation. Meanwhile, the population wonder on Muhammad Deby's upcoming projects and the willingness to hand over power, despite the fact that little or no information has been given on the cause of the president's death. To many Chadians, he is in the past. The population nurture high expectations from the transitional government, though troubled about their different activities. Over 400 deaths and enormous material damages worth millions was recorded following a 5 days continuous torrential floods in South Africa, the KwaZulu-Natal province. More than 50 persons are yet to be found as the search and rescue operations continues. Many others were discovered homeless. There's been a serious search for drinkable water since the flood swept through this region, destroying homes, power lines, roads and bridges. The government promised to assist all the affected families. Weather experts says this may be due to climate change and warns the population against future rains.
And talking point coming up next. Joining us from Accra, Ghana, our guest today is Hadi Yakubu. He's a Pan-Africanist and he's the head of Engagement and Solidarity at Africans Rising, and he's overseeing mobilization, organization, projects and programs of the movement. You're welcome. Right.
Thank you very much.
All right, you're
good
welcome.
evening to you.
All right, we're going to be discussing issues concerning the African continent, and of course we're talking about Africans Rising, which is pleased to announce to Africans that the week from 23rd to the 29th of May has been declared as African Liberation Week, and this is the first of its kind, and this year's mobilization will be running under the theme Africa for Africans. Tell us more about this, Africa for Africans.
Yes, thank you very much, my brother, and greetings to my people in Cameroon. I have always loved the Republic of Cameroon due to the Pan-African roots that are buried deep in that country. It is my pleasure to be on your network to talk about Africans Rising. I think that we have started something very unique and very impactful that it is necessary to bring to the attention of the African people. We have chosen the theme for this year to be Africa for Africans, which is a very simple but powerful theme. And if you recall, it re-echoes. It echoes the earlier historical, allusions of Marcus Mosiah Garvey, who first, conceptualized the concept of Africa for Africans, because clearly America is for the Americans, Europe is for the Europeans, Asia is for the Asians, and therefore Africa ought to be for Africans. It is ironic that
is Africa not for Africans?
Well, if you look at the economic, military, even political aspects of our governance and our administrations, you would find that in each of the African countries, they are semblances, in fact not semblances, roots of external, control and ownership. If you look at the minerals, I sit here in Accra, Ghana, and Ghana is one of the biggest producers of gold in Africa, and more than 70% of that gold is owned and controlled by 5 companies from America, UK, and Canada. These 5 companies are able to produce this much gold and are allowed to repatriate 100% of their profit to their home countries. If you look at what is happening in the Democratic Republic of Congo, which is famed to contain resources that are capable of taking care of the whole African continent for more than 5 decades, and you realize you witness the livelihoods of the people. If you look at even our country, Cameroon, and the potential that it has, but if you look at the people who benefit largely from the resources of that country, it is largely not the African people. And therefore, what we are looking at is an Africa that is in the hands of foreign monopoly control, and that must change if we have to have a future for the next generation coming. And that is why it is necessary to re-echo this famous but very profound, anthem and cry that Africa must be for Africans. And this theme carries 2 very important notions. First of all, it is to say that we must take center stage in the ownership and control of the wealth of the African continent, so that African resources and African wealth must benefit African people first and foremost. And it also encapsulates the notion that Africa is for us, and therefore we must do everything that is in our power to protect it. So things about the environment, things about the climate, things about keeping the continent clean and safe, that people protect what they own. And therefore, if we see Africa as our own, Africa that is for us, then it behoves us. The responsibility then falls upon us, and we are more alive to it, that it is necessary to protect what belongs to us. And that is why we have chosen this theme for this year's mobilization for African liberation.
All right, some observers are looking at some observers are looking at what you're saying now, something that is going to be pretty difficult. Looking at the fact that, for example, we have gold on the ground, but we don't have what it takes to transform. We don't have what it takes to take that gold from to get it off the ground. We have a lot of raw materials, but now exploitation is a problem, and that's why foreign companies are always coming in, and they are the ones exploiting, and they are the ones taking the lion's share of the benefits.
Well, I think this argument has been made over and over again, and I think we disagree with this argument, because clearly when somebody says that we have the resources but we do not have what it takes to exploit the resources, I disagree. Technical know-how is something that is in the market for sale. All right? It's something that is in the market for sale. And some of these companies that actually come to exploit our natural resources do not have the technical know-how themselves. What they do is they come in, gain the concessions before now going to buy the technical know-how on the market and distribute the proceeds between themselves and those that are giving them the technical know-how. Why can't we also go to the market and buy the technical know-how and bring the technical know-how to exploit the resources and make and keep the profit, pay them off and keep the profit? And in the process, our people must be able to learn the technical know-how so that when we have paid off the people who have come to do the work, we now have people in our land who are capable of doing the same technical work that was done before. And this is how we ought to approach, our wealth. Otherwise, we cannot continue on the path of handing over our resources on a silver platter to foreign multinational companies whose profit go to develop, the metropolis, who previously had come here to colonize us and to steal our natural resources as much as they wanted. We cannot continue in that regard. What will be the justification?
Every now and then we are seeing African leaders rushing to the IMF, rushing to the World Bank, rushing to other countries to borrow, to lend money. Can we do that with aid? Can we do that with borrowed money? Can we do what you're saying now? Taking full control, central control of our resources with borrowed financial resources?
Well, clearly, that is a very, very brilliant question that you've asked, because these multinational companies are from metropolis that control the IMF and the World Bank, the Bretton Woods institutions. In fact, a book written by one of the trade experts in Africa from Uganda called Trade is War highlights and exposes how the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund are controlled by Washington and the other partners to the other parties to the Washington consensus. It is therefore ironic that our people think, or our leaders think, that they can go and borrow from these institutions who are beholden to the parties of the Washington consensus to use that money to transform our economies, whereas the transformation of our economies is directly opposite, is in direct contradiction to the interests of those metropolis who these Bretton Woods institutions were established to serve their interests in the first place. It is absolutely impossible. What we need to do is that we have to leverage what we have. Look, there are no computers without the resources from Congo. There are no phones without the resources from Congo. There are no lithium batteries to power electric vehicles in Washington, D.C. and parts of Europe without the lithium without the resources from parts of Guinea and Burkina Faso, and also even Democratic Republic of Congo. Why can't we say that this is our resource, and without it your life will be miserable? And therefore that is our leverage to negotiate for the lion's share of whatever comes out of the resources. And as I have said, people can come in with their technical knowledge and technical resources, but that doesn't mean that we hand over whatever we have to them because they have technical knowledge. And if they have technical knowledge, what is the use of that technical knowledge if there is no resource to exploit? So we just need to be conscious of what we have and be able to leverage it. And I think this conversation is properly encapsulated in the theme for African Liberation Week. And as you know, Africans Rising is a Pan-African movement, and we seek to build solidarity and unity of purpose among Africans from across the world to realize
and that's why
we are no longer.
And that's why the reflections during this week of Africa's liberation, this African Liberation Week, will focus on the renewed unity, or the need for renewed unity amongst Africans all over the world. How urgent is this?
This is absolutely urgent. It is as urgent as right now, like it needs to be done right now, because in most cases, a lot of institutions will commemorate African Liberation Day. And let me just give a brief background. The African Liberation Day celebration comes about as a result of the formation of the Organization of African Unity, which was in May 1963 in that famous Heads of States conference in Addis Ababa. In that conference, the heads of states could not agree on a single continental government, and they therefore needed to compromise on the formation of the Organization of African Unity to work us towards the unification of the continent. But that has not yet happened, and we now have the African Union. Instead of commemorating this with speeches and holidays and stuff like that, Africans Rising has chosen to do it in a very unique way. And the way we do it is by mobilizations. We encourage African people, wherever they may be, whether they are in Africa, whether they are in Europe, whether they are in the Caribbean, wherever they are, to mobilize and take action or hold events to commemorate this African Liberation Day. And this year we are actually moving it from just a day to a week, a whole week. So 23rd May to 29th May is the African Liberation Week, and that is what we have declared. So every African, wherever they are, must embark on actions, and these actions could range from anything from marches to protests to community events to creative actions to film shows, whatever it is that people find it in their power to do. They must take action on any day within the week to commemorate African Liberation Week. The most important aspect of this is the realization that we are not alone. Whatever we are doing, whatever I am going to do in Accra, I realize that I am not alone in this, that there are thousands and tens of thousands of people who are doing similar things with the same mentality that
and
we
the
are
same
doing
objectives.
this for African unity, that we are doing this for the renewed unity of purpose to take ownership and control of Africa for the Africans.
All right, and below the main theme, Africa for Africans, we have sub-themes like decolonization, capturing the unfinished business of decolonization, gender justice, ensuring gender equality in carving the Africa we want, health, equitable access to quality health, healthcare amid COVID-19, and of course climate change and environmental justice. Advancing the push for climate and environmental justice starts the Africa we want. Thank you so much, Hadi Yakubu, Pan-Africanist, and of course you are working with the Africa Rising movement as head of engagement and solidarity of Africans Rising. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, my brother.
Thanks so much, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. That's it for today. Stay with us, and Equinoxe will be yours in a jiffy.
Equinoxe Télévision, au-delà de l'image, nous rendons compte.